talk about how to be passive and profitable when investing your IRA into commercial real estate. Now, before we get started, we do have just a couple of quick announcements for you guys. We do actually have a really cute video that we are going to play for one of our promotions that we currently have going on right now. So Syed, if you want to get that video queued up, we'll play that and then we'll get started.
My goodness, another downturn for the stock market. How on earth am I going to make money and retire at this rate? There has to be another way to invest my money safely.
There is.
Who said that?
The disembodied voice in your kitchen.
Oh my! Wait, what other way is there?
It's something called a self-directed IRA.
A self-directed IRA?
Yes.
Well, what does it do then, huh?
A self-directed IRA allows you to use your 401k and IRA money to invest in alternative assets such as real estate, notes, and private entities. With self-directed IRAs, you can take control and diversify with alternative investments that you're knowledgeable about, without the uncertainty and fluctuation of the stock market.
Well, that sounds like a swell idea. How do I get one of those?
All you have to do to get started is open up an IRA with Quest Trust Company. You can speak to one of our certified IRA specialists and submit an application in just a few minutes.
How grand! I think I'll call them right now.
But wait, there's more.
There's more.
Don't get burned by the stock market. When you open up an account with Quest Trust Company, we'll send you a free toaster. That's right. When you open an account right now at Quest Trust Company, we'll give you a free toaster. All you have to do is use promo code TOASTER and call 1-855-FUN-IRAs or send us an email.
That is ridiculously embarrassing.
I love that so much. And guys, believe it or not, this toaster promotion has been way more popular than I could have ever imagined. So give us a call, open an account. We'll give you a free toaster. And we've got some other cool things going on right now as well. So before we get started with today's main presentation, I do just have a couple of quick slides for you guys, kind of letting you know a little bit about who we are at Quest, what promotions we have going on right now, and some of our upcoming events as well. So for those of you guys who don't know me, my name is Haley Gant. I help to host a lot of these webinars that we put on, and I work with the rest of our marketing team to put on all of this education, bring in different guest speakers, and host our different events, both online and in person as well. Now, we host a lot of education, but who is Quest Trust Company? I know at a lot of these webinars, we get a lot of new people joining us every single week. So if it's your first time joining us, welcome. We're happy to have you here. At the core of our business, we are a self-directed IRA custodian. So basically that means that at Quest, we teach investors how to utilize their old 401ks or IRAs to invest into assets outside of the stock market. So a lot of people don't really know this, but you can actually use your IRA to invest into notes, private placements, real estate, and you still get all of these same tax advantages. And it's really just a great way to diversify the types of assets that you hold in your IRA. So at Quest, we have about 20,000 active clients nationwide. Physically, our offices are based in Texas, but we do have clients all across the US. We operate in all 50 states, and we're a pretty good sized company. We've got about $2 billion in assets under our management. And every day when we close our doors, we have just over 400 million in undirected cash. And as you guys are out there looking to invest into commercial real estate, all of this IRA money that's sitting on the sidelines can be really beneficial to you as you're potentially going out there and raising capital for these deals. So today's class will be a great class for you guys looking to either passively invest into commercial real estate. Maybe if you're on the syndication or raising capital side, definitely should have some great content for you guys here today. Now, quick disclaimer, this is so important. Please be aware that at Quest, we do not give tax, legal, or investment advice. We put on a lot of education. We bring in a lot of different guest speakers, and we are really great at educating our clients about all of these intricacies that you need to be aware of when you're investing with an IRA. But please, please always do your own due diligence before you enter into investments. make sure you're taking the time to structure your deals properly and that you're vetting the people that you have worked with. Really cannot stress that enough. These IRAs are 100% self-directed, so it's really beneficial, but it does come with that added responsibility as well. So please just keep that in mind as you are investing. Now, for those of you guys who might already be our clients or you're already familiar with us, I would definitely encourage you to go check out our online client portal. At Quest, we have worked extremely hard behind the scenes over the last several years to build in a lot of these really awesome features to our online client portal. Through the online portal, you can see your investments, your transactions at any time online for both your accounts and any accounts that you might manage or be an interested party as well. And you can also upload expenses that need to be paid if you're holding real estate assets. And something that I think is really cool through our online portal is you can now upload all of your investment information, all of your documents directly online. You actually no longer have to fill out the direction of investment form if you utilize the QTC Investment Hub through the online portal. So that's somewhat of a new feature. We're really trying to get it out there right now. So if you guys are a client and you have not explored all of the features that we have online through this portal, I definitely encourage you guys, go log in. You can find the login on the homepage of our website. And we've got a lot of cool features through there, and it helps to keep your account secure as well. Now, today's class is just one of many classes that we host here at Quest. Again, I work really closely with the rest of our marketing team to help to put on all of these events for you guys. Last year during the pandemic, we put on close to 300 webinars over the entire year. And, other than that, we host a lot of in-person events. We do a lot of recordings on our YouTube channel, and we have a really awesome education center on our website as well. Our goal is to provide the best self-directed IRA education that you guys can find out there. And not only the education, but providing networking opportunities so you guys can actually meet other investors, add people to your network, and hopefully find reputable people that you can do deals with your IRA funds. So if you are in Texas, be sure to check out our upcoming events. We are bringing back the in-person events, and I'm so excited about it. That'll be on my next slide. But if you guys are not in Texas, or maybe you're not quite comfortable with getting in a room with a bunch of people yet, be sure to check out the virtual networking happy hours that we host. I actually personally host this event about twice a month. It is the first and third Wednesday of every month. And so we actually had our last virtual networking happy hour last night. We had about 40 investors on from all across the US, a lot of experienced investors. So if you guys are looking to grow your network with people, outside of your local area, I would definitely encourage you guys to check out these virtual networking happy hours that we are hosting. Now, to find our full schedule of events, you can just head on over to our website, questtrust.com. I do have Manny, one of our IRA specialists here, moderating today's webinar with us. And Manny will be posting some of our contact information, some links to these upcoming events. So definitely be sure to check those out and get your RSVPs so you get those event reminders as well. Now, on to the in-person events. We are in the midst of our grand reopenings for all of our Texas offices this month. This past Tuesday, we had our Houston grand reopening event. It was awesome. It was so great to see all of the vendors and all of the attendees back in our office again. It was a ton of fun, and we will be hosting grand reopening events in Austin next Tuesday, August 10th at 6:30 p.m., as well as Dallas on August 17th at 6:30 p.m. Now, if you can't catch these in person, you can watch the recordings through Zoom and through YouTube online. But if you're local to Austin or Dallas, get your RSVPs soon, because we are having to limit the capacity at these events, and RSVPs will sell out. They did for Houston. We had a ton of people calling us. So just make sure to get that RSVP before it's too late. And we are excited to see you guys all at those events. Now, we do have a promotion going on actually now through the end of this quarter. We did extend it because it ended up being very popular as well. But we are giving away up to $500 in account credits for new clients or existing clients that are looking to move funds into Quest. Depending on how much you're looking to transfer or roll over in, we'll give you up to $500. So this is a great deal. It works for both existing clients and new clients. So if you're looking to get started, if you have another investment coming up, now is a great time to make that move with some of your funds, and we'll give you some free money to do that. Also, we do have a referral program. Guys, if you have been self-directing your IRA, you probably know that this is a huge opportunity for you to build wealth and actually have control over where your retirement funds are invested. Do us a favor. We get a lot of our business by word of mouth. Share this information out with your friends, your family, your colleagues. You never know who might be really looking at other alternative investment options for their 401k or IRA. So if you refer someone to Quest, we will give you each a $25 credit. There's no limit to the amount of clients that you refer over to us. If you want more information about this, you can actually visit a really nice webpage that we have set up for this. This is refer.questtrust.com. In this page, you can actually enter in your information, the person that you'd like to refer, and we'll have an IRA specialist reach out in about 24 hours and just let you guys know about the different options or the steps to get started once you're ready to do that. So that's all I've got for my quick announcements. Guys, we are so easy to get a hold of here at Quest. You can give us a call, send us an email, send a chat to Manny here during the class if you have any questions. And if you visit our website, you can actually chat live with an IRA specialist at any time during our business hours. It's not a robot. It's actually someone in our offices. It's a real IRA specialist, and we're here to help answer any questions for you. So without further ado, Nathan, I'll go ahead and pass the torch off to you. And I'm excited for your class today. Guys, if you have questions, post them in the Q&A box. We will be answering them during the presentation. And that's all I've got. Nathan, go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, well, I was going to just say the same thing that you just said. We don't have a ton of us here, so don't wait for your questions. You can put them in the questions answer, and then Manny, rather than you answering them, I want you to pause, say, Nathan, interrupt, pull your camera off, and ask me the question. I can't quite unmute you all. We can't quite, we're not that small, but we can get, most of them answered. I saw Emmanuel answered a question where you asked, hey, can we get non-recourse loans for commercial property? And I want to expand on his answer to you a little bit. Commercial property, it would depend on the deal. Often, some very large commercial property deals don't have a personal guarantee involved into them, depending on what the deal is. So there are banks that normally wouldn't do a non-recourse loan that would do a non-recourse loan to certain types of commercial properties. So if you're talking about a smaller deal, a smaller type of commercial properties, then probably the answers that Manny gave you are probably the best. But really it depends on the deal. So you got to really kind of, have a little bit of knowledge of where to go for the right deal. So we're talking about commercial properties today. And of course, everything that I talk about is going to have that IRA slant to it, right? What are the things we can do in an IRA? Now, primarily this speech is directed towards the passive investor. As we'll see as we go on, when you're investing with your IRA into most of the time in a commercial property, it's not your deal. You're going to be using someone else's deal. Though there's tons of tidbits in here for those of you that are trying to raise money and things. And I'll try to identify and help as we go along. Haley already gave a disclaimer. We don't apply tax any of our investment for profits or anything. So we got through that. Some real quick basic information. I think by looking at the people that are online, most of you got the basic stuff. Self-directed IRA, I can go buy real estate with it. I can loan money out with it. There's a lot of benefits to having one, like allowing for true diversification. Lord, some of my clients were really happy about that over the last year. We're always talking about tax savings. I love the fact that a lot of self-directed IRAs have a lot of social implications. Even if you're just investing locally into your community or something, it does that. But they allow you to invest in the things that you know best and understand. There are all different types of accounts that can be self-directed. Self-directed IRA really isn't a type of account at all. It's just a marketing term to describe it. All right. There's traditional IRAs and Roth IRAs. We hear a lot about the Roth IRAs, but most of the investing happens from a traditional IRA because that's an old 401k or something like that. So that's where most people's money is. But we also have SEP IRAs, simple IRAs, and a really powerful account called a solo, or sometimes called an individual 401k that we'll be talking about. I have classes about all of these different types of accounts, but also health savings accounts and what we call covered L education accounts. Now, all these accounts have different characteristics and work differently and do different things. And so it's really helpful to have a relationship with an IRA specialist and understand what to do. And this is for both categories, whether you're investing into someone's deal or you're looking to gather other people's money. An IRA specialist has a lot of advantages, or having a relationship, or what I call having one in your pocket, has a lot of advantages to it. Okay. For example, if you get someone that wants to use their IRA funds into your private placement deal, if you immediately pull in someone like Emmanuel or Haley into that deal, they're a complete neutral party. They don't have the horse in the race, but they're professionals, right? And it's always best to try to use professionals. Like, they're going to go in and talk to your client about the use of their IRA. What's going to happen when they do that? Well, we'll start talking about all different types of things. You might be wanting to use that old 401k, but we'll talk about doing something that I think is really powerful. Often we'll ask, do you have a Roth IRA? Do you have a covered L? Do you have health savings account? Does your wife have a Roth IRA? And often we can combine those, right, and take these little accounts and let them piggyback or ride on the backs of a larger account and get better return. This does two things. For the person investing the money, it's very good. You can pick up these little amounts, add them on, and get better return than you could get normally with little amounts of money. But it also has another point to it. You met Haley. She's super smart. She's an investor herself. You might have run into my son. Same with him. He's a good investor. They're both certified IRA specialists. They're highly knowledgeable. I've known these two for a long time, especially my son, because Haley's father was one of my very, very first clients in there. Well, I'll guarantee you, at 18 years old, those kids, I call them kids, they're all adults now, but those kids didn't care at all about investing. But what Eddie did, is we had taken a little Roth IRAs where we put some money in it for our children and started to partner it with our IRAs. And in doing so, what happened is your children start to learn this very valuable lesson about investing. And as they grow up and see how it works and see how it does, it really is beneficial. It's something they're not going to learn in college or something else. For you, the investor, what happens, right? You now all of a sudden have brought in this professional that adds a lot of credibility to who and what you do. But they're not only looking at this as one investment, all of a sudden they're seeing this as a wealth building and information situation. And you also get introduced to other members of their family. And it makes it much easier the next time you do a go around and you get to raise money, because you'll have a lot more referrals and different things. It really is interesting learning, if you haven't seen my talks about learning how to partner small accounts with larger accounts. What can you invest in with self-directed IRAs? Like I said, real estate, notes, we hear about that all the time. But one of the largest investment categories is private entities. Now at Quest, the way we process our transactions is we break up different departments inside the transactions. So we have notes specialists, we have real estate specialists, and we have private entity specialists. And the reason for that is what it takes to fund and take care of a security agreement is completely different than what it takes to directly buy a piece of real estate in your IRA or loan money out of it. So we have experts in different things that help to. So if we're going to talk about raising private money or using our money in syndicated deals, commercial property is what I'm primarily talking about today. I'm not really talking about small commercial properties in the IRA very much, but I'm talking about the normal thing. I'm going to buy an apartment complex. What's going to happen? Well, I'm going to gather some money up from some individuals. And then what I'm going to do from there is I'm going to borrow some money from the bank. I'm going to buy maybe an apartment complex that isn't performing very well. Maybe I'm going to build a hospital. Maybe I'm going to build a commercial building, all the different things. But what we've done is we got our investors that we've gathered money from. You know, we typically have Reg D type of offering, and we're putting those together. Well, in doing that, you're going to run across problems, and we're going to discuss the problems, and then we're going to discuss the solutions. And in doing so, I think that we could add a lot of information and help. And again, if you have any questions as we go along, blast them in the chat box. Manny will stop me from talking and he'll ask the question for you or even unmute you. We'll figure that out as we go along. So what is the number one problem that we deal with when we're dealing with commercial property is what we call disqualified persons. Truthfully, it's the number one problem we deal with self-directed IRAs, period. See, there are people that are disqualified from doing business with the IRA. They can't buy, sell, trade, or extend services or receive a benefit directly or indirectly. Who are those people? Well, it's the account owner to start with. So the owner of the account is disqualified from their own IRA. They can't buy, sell, trade, extend services. And you go, why? Well, the retirement accounts are set aside for a specific purpose, for when you get old and you're going to retire on. And you can make all the decisions about what to do with it, but you can't receive a benefit right now. Your benefits in the future when it's a big pile of money and you get to take it out either tax-free or tax-deferred, depending on the type of account. So the distribution is supposed to be your benefit, not a benefit to you directly, right? Now, don't get it wrong. You could take all your knowledge and bring it to bear on your IRA in order to make it grow. The trick here in the problem is there are also a group of people who are equally disqualified to the IRA. That includes you, the IRA owner, your spouse, your lineal ascendants and descendants, children and parents, their spouses, and here's the kicker, companies those people own, control, manage, or highly compensated individuals thereof. There becomes the problem. Is if you are the lead on a deal, you are the person that is putting the deal together. Often you're putting your credit online, you know, and then you're gathering up the people's money, and then you're borrowing money to get the bank through your limited liability corporation, typically. Inside of there, if you're doing that deal, you're definitely receiving a benefit. I'm here to make money. So therefore, you can't use your IRA. Nor could you use your spouse's or your children's or your parents' or their spouse's IRAs. And that's where the problem is. You cannot take your IRA and put it into your own deal. You must always be using someone else's. And what's the solution? I don't have any. Don't do it. This blows up more IRAs than anything else. It is can be one of the highest fine areas of IRS code, and there are people that are getting away with it, but I don't know if they're really getting away with it. The IRS is really lining up and looking for these types of transactions, and they got a long time to go back and look, if you know what I mean. So it's really important to understand if you're raising money or if you're using your IRA, you don't want to put it in your deal. You put that money in someone else's deal. Most of you are getting some type of coaching, you know, through one of the things, and have a network of other investors. So, and there's enough IRA money out there to fill in the gaps without using your own. I've got to just tell you. So that's the one I really don't have a solution to. If anyone has a question, let me know. Two, when we're using private entities, this is the number one time we see fraud in self-directed IRAs. if I was going to try to, take your money through some type of process or pyramid scheme, and I'm going to use IRA money, I'm going to put an LLC in there. And I got to tell you, I'm going to put an LLC and I'm going to create some things. So take the time and think about it if you're doing a deal. All right. Take the time to do good due diligence. Background checks. See if these people have done other deals before. Ask for a list of people that have done business with them that you could talk to. Understand the investment, understand the timeline, and understand what would happen if it goes wrong. Ask these questions before you give your money into someone else's deal. And remember, it's self-directed. At Quest, we can't stop the deal. If you're telling us to do the deal and it's not obviously a prohibited transaction, even if it's a bad investment, that's our job, is to process it. We get between $100 and a little over $300 a year. We're not sitting there checking the veracity of your investments in any way, shape, or form. So you need to be able to understand to do that. Matter of fact, we have to follow your directions if they're submitted to us, no matter what. That's the agreement. So some things I'll tell you about it. People who are always looking for money, I always say there's some things that you can notice about it. Typically, are trying to steal your money is it's usually a really nice return. So it gets those greed glands, like swelling up in your neck and cutting off the oxygen to your brain. 2, in order to take advantage of this opportunity, whatever it is, we have to move really fast. 3, it's a little bit hard to understand. Oh, it's a property over here in another country, or it's a this, or it's a that, and it's tied to this, that we have this government contract, and it's a little hard to verify. Again, if it sounds too good to be true, slow down, talk to your own professionals, and make sure you understand the investment. If you don't understand the investment or have questions about it, don't do it. The loss of missing the opportunity for a good investment will never outweigh the loss of doing a bad investment. Trust me, from a man who knows. How'd you get really smart, Nathan? I did a lot of really dumb things. Anyway, moving on. Plan asset regulations. What the heck are you talking about, Nathan? Well, I have a hard time talking about this one because it's hard to understand. And I'm not an attorney, and I'm certainly not a securities attorney. But there are something called plan asset regulations that help to regulate the use of retirement funds whenever we're gathering in money. And here becomes the problem typically. If you have, when you're gathering money, if you have too much of the seed money that you're starting with comes from a retirement account, it can be deemed that you've reached a point of being a fiduciary to that retirement account and you become disqualified, just like the other disqualified persons. And now you couldn't have a benefit, and the whole thing goes apart. How do you do this, or what's the solution to this problem? If you're planning on using retirement account money, when you're talking to your securities attorney, make sure they understand that and ask them, right? Have you set these type of deals up with retirement accounts, and are you familiar with the plan asset regulations? 99% of the time, their answer is going to be yes, because there's retirement accounts into these deals have become very, very popular over the last decade. And most of the time, there's retirement accounts being used and most commercial deals that you see these days, one form or another. What I've seen as a structure that most of the time they'll do is they try to keep the total amount of IRAs into the deal at less than 25%. And that seems to fix it. I have seen deals that have way higher, like above 60% IRAs, and that were structured correctly. but it's a more, once you get to that much, it becomes a more complicated structure, and you have to have some actuaries and other things in there in order to make it work, or to go from there. So this is probably the worst thing I have to talk about, the hardest thing to understand, right? And in some people's cases, I call it the dirty little secret. People hide from the fact that this type of investment can be taxable to the IRA. There are investments that are taxable to the IRA, not to you personally, but to the IRA themselves. Actually, there's no investment that your IRA can make that really becomes taxable to you. People go, wait a second, I did a Roth conversion. No, that wasn't an investment. You distributed it out of one account, put it into the other, and it created tax, no penalties, right? But there are situations where the IRA itself, when it makes an investment, can create tax inside the investment. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the problem, and then I'm going to give you different solutions to the problem. And depending on what type of deal you're doing, depends on what solution that you'll want to use. Okay, so here's the problem. If an IRA conducts business in certain ways, it can be taxed under a law called Unrelated Business Income Tax. I'll give you an example. Take a Roth IRA, and I want to open a lemonade stand. I want to open an internet business, right? Now, what am I doing? I'm in competition with other lemonade stands, right? But my ownership is a tax-free entity. Couldn't I sell my lemonade cheaper than the guy that has to do it through a taxable entity? Yes. So it'd be an unfair business advantage. So what do? We tax everybody. In other words, is it illegal to run a business in a Roth IRA? No, but it is taxable. Taxable to the person? No. Taxable to the IRA. The IRA has to fill out its own tax return called a 990T, and it's taxed at what we call trust rates. Well, what are trust rates? That just basically means that if you make a little bit of money, it hits that top income percentage, 39.6 right now, very quickly, somewhere around $12,000. So it could be a very onerous tax. That's why most people choose not to do an active business inside an IRA. Well, if I'm investing in an apartment complex, is that running a business? The answer is no. It's deemed that is a real estate investment. We have real estate attached to it. You're not the managing member. You're a passive investor. You are not running a business, right? And I have other people say, no, well, wait, I've invested in Coke. That's an active business. Yeah, but Coke was a C corporation. So it paid tax at a corporate level. And because you're an IRA, you got your dividends tax free. All right. So this doesn't get us very often as real estate investors. There is a case that it does get us. It's when we're renting personal property, like a mobile home. If the mobile home is not attached to a piece of land, if it's just the box, right? Now I'm buying and selling personal property, and that is deemed as running a business. Same as renting medical equipment, oil. I see a lot of renting of equipment like at oil wells, things like that. So that kind of gets us. But again, we're talking about real estate, commercial deals, unrelated business income tax. Under this doesn't get us, but there's another subsection called unrelated debt financed income that does get us. Let me explain that. That is when we're owning an asset that has a loan on it or is debt leveraged. Then we now have to pay tax to the extent that the asset is debt leveraged. I know that's complicated, so I'm going to try to give it to you in a real simple story, though the same rules apply to our commercial deal. Here's my simple story. I have my Roth IRA. I don't have enough money in my Roth IRA to buy this house that I want to buy. It costs $100,000, but I have $40,000. So what I do is I go to North American Savings Bank, NASB.com. I like them. They're a good company. They also have a lot of good information about non-recourse loans, right? Because I can't borrow the money and put my own credit on the line. I need to have a non-recourse lender. And so there's specialty lenders out there like North American Savings Bank. that will do a loan like that. A little plug for you there, North American, if you're listening. And I purchased the house. Now, when I purchased the house, I put $40,000 down. The house cost $100,000. So at the time I purchased it, I am 60% debt leveraged. Good news. The very next day after I purchased my house, someone wants to buy it for $200,000. Right? Ooh, I made $100,000 profit. Well, unfortunately, 60% of that profit is subject to tax. Again, not your tax that the IRA has to pay. 60%. At what rate? Well, we didn't hold it for a year. If we had held it more than a year, then we could have picked up the capital gains rate. But since we only sold it in one day, what do? We taxed as ordinary income. At what rate? The trust rate. So it shoots up right away to that 39.6%, or pretty much, 40% of that $60,000 or 35% of that $60,000 is gone to the government. Would you do the deal? And it's really funny. If I was teaching this class live, there'd be all types of people going, no way, I wouldn't do that deal. I'm like, really? Listen to the whole story. I started with $40,000 and one day I got my $40,000 back. I got another $40,000 and I had to split $60,000 with Uncle Sam. Sign me up. I'd do it every day of the week. The problem isn't the investment in that case, right? Sometimes the IRS might be your best problem. The problem is we don't buy houses for $100,000 and sell them the next day for $200,000. That's the real problem. It's a fake story. Okay, just to demonstrate the problem. So there's the problem that we have if we buy things. And how it gets us is even if we're buying it through an LLC or a pass-through like what we buy apartment complexes with, like partnership or grantor trust, or most commonly an LLC. That's what we call a pass-through entity. In other words, we're passing the taxes through the entity to the beneficial owners. You're subject to the exact same tax. And a lot of people who are gathering money aren't talking about this. And I think that it's beneficial to understand and talk about it before I do the deal rather than as we go along. So again, I'm going to identify the problem. Now we can come to the solutions to the problem of unrelated business income tax as it relates to debt financing. Woo, we're getting smarter as we go. Okay. And again, you don't pay the tax, the IRA pays the tax. And if we keep it for a longer term, we can use capital gains rate. Okay. And I'll also say that with unrelated business income tax, if it's less, the first $1,000 of tax income is forgivable. They just let it go. So if it's a small amount, you don't have to do it. And you do get to take the 1,000 off. So sometimes that works in there. Just throw it in there. Okay. So sorry, I got lost here. So there we go. Solutions to the problem. There's 4 different ones that I'm going to give you. We can use depreciation. We can use a taxable entity. We can sometimes loan in a 401k exemption. Let's look at the first one. This is one of my favorites. Doesn't necessarily work very well with apartment complexes, and we'll see why in just a second. But it can be used in a lot of the other commercial deals I want to talk about. And that's the use of depreciation. And I always get into this argument with someone who's a lot smarter and more educated with me all the time. And I think it's really funny because there are people out there that will tell me, and these are typically tax attorneys, advanced CPAs, things, and they'll say, well, I would never, ever buy real estate inside an IRA because I lose one of the most powerful investment advantages of owning real estate as an investment tool, and that is the use of depreciation. And guess what? They're right. It is super powerful. But then I have to scratch my head for a second, and I have to go, Mr. Smart Guy, I think I might have missed something here. You see, the question isn't whether I'm going to buy real estate inside the IRA or outside the IRA. You see, I have this bucket of money and it's in my IRA and I have to invest it in something. And I kind of know a little bit about buying rental properties or buying real estate or doing all this. So if I buy this, what would happen is I could get appreciation and cash flow. And when I get older, I'll have a big old bucket of money. Now, if I didn't do that, I'd invest in something else like the stock market. And I'm not very good at it. I just don't have a lot of knowledge about it. So therefore, I'd be safer returns. I'd get a lower returns and I'd have a little bucket of money. Isn't a big bucket of money better than a little bucket of money? You know, sometimes we overanalyze things and forget the very obvious. But going back to the depreciation problem, why is it that IRAs can't use depreciation? Well, the answer is there's no tax. If there's no tax, how can you have depreciation? You can't. But when unrelated business income tax as it relates to debt financing kicks in, you now have tax. Guess what you can now do? You can use depreciation. But inside an IRA, a depreciation can work completely differently than outside an IRA. And let me explain. Remember what I said in the beginning, that we're only taxed on our debt leverage percentage. All right. So when we purchase the house, go back to the house scenario. We purchased the house, we were 60% debt leverage. Instead of selling it in one day, what we did is what most of my people do, they're buying debt leverage property, is they're buying it, they're hanging on to it, right? They're collecting rents, making a payment, right? And getting a difference in between. And hopefully over a long period of time, they're paying down the property and the property's going up, the rents are going up, becomes a good long-term investment. That's what I see people doing often when we're borrowing money in order to buy a property. And again, either. So if I'm doing that, right, outside an IRA, what would happen is I'm getting income and I take depreciation, and does that make my tax go away? And the answer is no. It really pushes that tax off to the future, because when I sell that property, I have to recapture it, and my basis is constantly going down, right? And then I can use 1021 exchange, drop till you swap till you drop type of thing, right? But if I take the cash out to spend it, I don't have to pay tax on it. Everyone got that? Well, inside an IRA, what happens? Well, let's say we do the same thing. I'm getting my rents, I'm paying my mortgage, there is profit in there, I'm getting a cash flow, right? The first 1,000 gets forgiven, but after that, I have to pay unrelated business income tax. But now I could use the use of depreciation to push that off to the future. But remember, we're only being taxed on our debt leverage percentage. Is the debt leverage staying the same in this scenario of a simple house? No. What's happening is I'm paying it off. I started at 60% debt leverage, but I might be go down and down. What happens if I paid it off prior to selling it? Or we got to what we call an average indebtedness of 0. In other words, we've had it paid off for a year. Okay. If we do that and then sell the property, how much do we have to pay in taxes? Ta-da! 0. For a lot of people, the problem with unrelated business income tax is a paperwork problem and not an actual taxation problem. That's if that's your strategy, to buy the property, hang on to it, and pay it off over time. Often, when we're buying an apartment complex or other commercial property, is that what we're doing? The answer is no. Often we're buying a property that needs some repairs, needs some attention. Once we give it that attention, the rents go up. As the rents go up, the appraisal value goes up. And then what do? We might sell it, but often what we'll do is get a larger loan, take some of our money off the table, and continue to play. And so very seldom in commercial properties is we're doing this accelerated payoff. So depreciation may work, but like, here's the other problem. In syndication deals, now we're using K1, and once we're doing that, the depreciation or the expenses and stuff is calculated in the K1, and you don't get the use of depreciation. So this particular solution only works on the little deal. I'm buying a small complex, putting money down. I'm using a non-recourse lender to fill in the gap. So it doesn't work on big commercial, but I have other solutions. One solution that you might consider is the use of a taxable entity. And what am I talking about that? I'm talking like a C corporation. Well, typically, if I'm going to buy a commercial property, I'm definitely not going to use a C corporation. Well, why not? Because we pay tax at the corporate level. If most of my people putting the money inside the deal, right, are individuals, people, and not IRAs, what would happen? They pay tax at the corporate level, and then when they got their dividends or the money back, or the profits, they'd have to pay tax again. But to the IRAs, once that tax is paid, what happens? All of the profit comes to the IRA completely tax-free. It's been paid. So what's the solution? What I've seen people do is this, and it depends on the current climate for paying taxes, corporate taxes, and all of that. So this is a fluctuating solution depending on what the climate is or what the corporate taxes are. But it does solve other problems. Those of you that are raising money, listen to this. I've seen you have an LLC, then outside the LLC, set up a C corporation. The C corporation is a simple C corporation set up, and all the IRAs or retirement money that we're using invest in the C corporation. The C corporation then invests into the LLC as one of the members. It's a simple little extra setup here, but what does it do? It does something pretty cool, right? Yes, instead of paying tax at a trust rate, we're paying tax at a corporate rate, which could save us a lot of money. We get special investments in it. But there's another thing that it saves: time and frustration of your investor. Because you're only filing one tax return for the corporation for all the IRAs that are invested in the deals, and then the money flows tax-free to the IRAs. I know a lot of people out there, a lot of my clients that currently don't invest in apartment complexes just because they don't want to mess with a 990T. They just don't want to mess with it. And if you're out there looking to raise money and put this type of structure into place, I would argue there would be people that would jump into your game that wouldn't jump into other people's game. So just something to think about. I think it's good to talk about taxes and how to do it with people up front when you're raising the money. And if you do that, then we can deal and find the solution that makes the most sense for them. Let's go on to other solutions. Here's one: loan, don't own. Sometimes, and again, this doesn't always work, I'll talk about the problems with it, but rather than taking the IRAs and putting them in a position of being one of the owners, we're going to make them a lender. I've even seen it done where they make it a lender and their interest was part of the equity participation. Do I have any questions there, Manny? Not yet. If I do, I'm either
no questions yet.
Okay, cool. I saw some things popping up. Okay, so, and sometimes what you can do is put the IRA as one of the lenders in the deal, and that's how they're getting their money in, rather than, and if we do that, there is no unrelated business income tax if it's the structure set up correctly. So where's the snake in that oil? Often large commercial banks don't want that, right? If I'm the primary lender on the deal, there's not a problem with the IRA. It's probably not a problem with the person putting it in, but the bank on the deal may have a problem with it depending on the size of your deal, who the bank is, and so forth and so on. So, but I have seen, again, on a little bit smaller commercial deals, this was worked really well. The bank was happy with it. They were in first. The other money partners were in second, and then they had live people that filled in the rest of the gap, and it worked really well. All right. Now comes to my last one. There is the product I told you about, the solo 401k. Sometimes it's called an individual 401k. And this is my magic bullet. Why is it a magic bullet? Well, if you do an investment, this exact investment inside of a 401k, now there is over a 1 year hold period. In other words, I'm buying real estate that is debt leveraged. This is specific to real estate. So I can't debt leverage notes or other assets. It has to just be specifically real estate. But if you're buying real estate debt leverage inside a retirement solo 401k and no other account has this, there's a specific exemption and the tax literally just goes away. No tax at all. Just got to hold for a year. Everyone's going, whoa, Nathan, why did you tell me about those other solutions? Why didn't we just move straight to the solo 401k? Well, because the solo 401k comes with its own set of problems. A solo 401k is maybe one of the most powerful types of retirement accounts out there. But again, it also is like anything that's very powerful. It's very, very dangerous and often misused and abused, but it can solve a lot of problems. Let's talk about the biggest problem that you have with the solo 401k. And that is what we call legitimizing it. You can't go, oh, I like that solo 401k. Give me one of those. And then I'm going to move my IRAs into that and I'll just use that. You have to actually legitimize that solo. What do we mean by that? Well, solo 401k is an employer plan. Therefore, you have to demonstrate you're an employer. How do you demonstrate your employer? You show taxes or income on your tax return. And that's how we know. It could be Schedule C income. It could be W-2 income from an employee. What happens often is there are people that are selling solo 401ks and they don't talk about the need to legitimize it, right? And be wary of that, because if it's an improper, non-legitimized 401k, this is where I've seen most retirements get in a lot of trouble, is in this particular account and on this particular subject of it not being properly legitimized. There's a lot of other problems with the solo 401k too. There's reporting requirements. In other words, you're doing your own reporting on things like distributions, and you have reporting requirements, 5500s that you have to file based on how much is in the account. Depends on what type you have to do, and that's going on. And the record keeping must be meticulous and must have some understanding on how to use it. In addition to that, solo 401ks are only if you're self-employed. So, for example, say I'm employed at Quest, or we'll use Haley. Haley's employed at Quest IRA. She's a W-2 employee. On the side, Haley trims people's bushes. So she goes out and cuts people's bushes and they pay her cash to go cut her bushes. We got Haley's bush trimming service. That'd be really funny, by the way. But anyway, just maybe Haley out there in some bib overalls or something. No, but she's got income. And if she reported that income on her tax return and paid tax on it, then she could use that income to make a current year contribution into her solo 401k. She could move her IRAs, SEP IRAs, old 401ks into it. There's one thing we can't move into it, unfortunately, is a Roth IRA. You go, wait a second, it's a Roth 401k. No, it's got a Roth component to it. But once an IRA has become a Roth IRA, it can never be put back into an employer plan. We're hoping to change that, but it's been hard trying to get that through legislation. But inside the solo 401k, we can do conversions, which is really cool now. In other words, we can take some of that traditional money that we have in there and convert it inside the 401k, or the contributions you make as an employee also could be made tax-free. But there's the other problem is, if I wanted to do the same thing, I had Nathan's haircutting service on the side. I'm a W-2 employee. Could I do that? The answer is no. Why not? Because in addition to being a W-2 employee of Quest, I'm also an owner. And because I own a business, even though it's not related to my haircutting business, there's a set of laws called grouping rules that make me not have my own plan over here. I have to be fair to all my employees, and our plans have to match. Keeps people from not setting up corporations to funnel benefits to themselves that they're not giving to their employees, is what the reasoning for that is. So also, if you have common law employees at this business or any other business, a solo 401k doesn't work for you. You can still get a 401k. It's just more complicated and can be very expensive. It's not like a inexpensive solo 401k that you'd get at Quest. But the advantages to this particular account are huge. You also, in addition to the advantage of the exemption from unrelated debt financing, right, that would literally make this tax go away, you also get checkbook control. In other words, you're in control of checkbook. For some people, that's what things. You can make very large contributions, even with fairly limited income. And there's even a provision in there to do a loan for yourself up to a certain amount of money, which you can't do in any other account. So there's a lot of benefits to it. And one last thing I'd like to point out, I have seen this account, when done correctly, fix the problem after you already let the horses out of the pen. And what I mean by that, well, I've seen a person who's invested into an apartment complex. Then they heard one of my speeches and realized, oh my gosh, I'm going to have unrelated business income tax on the profit I'm making on this apartment complex, right? They had done the deal several years ago. They're coming to the point that they're going to realize the profit, and they're just now finding out that they're going to have to pay tax through their IRA. Well, these were SEP IRA funds, so it's like a traditional IRA. It's not a Roth IRA. What did we do? This individual was able to figure out how to create some self-employment income. Not very much. In this particular case I'm thinking about was somewhere around $1,000. He got a consulting fee.
Nathan.
Yeah.
Sorry to barge in, but
Sure.
we have one question. Kenneth asks, what are the amount restrictions when you move traditional IRA funds to a solo 401k?
There is no restrictions for transferring and moving in. If you've got it and it's in a traditional IRA, you can move it all into the 401k. There's no restrictions. There are contribution restrictions or limits to how much you can contribute. And that's a little more complicated. There's different ways. So that's where there is a limit. There's also no limit to how much you can convert once it's inside there. But you cannot move your Roth IRA into a Roth 401k. I know it sounds funny. Back up, back to my story. Person had already purchased the property. They're realizing they're having the unrelated business income tax. They created a little bit of income for themselves. They then opened a solo 401k and made a current year contribution that was equal to their income. It wasn't very much money. Again, somewhere around $1,000 in this particular story. Now they transferred or rolled over their SEP IRA into the 401k. And because they had already held the property for more than a year, what happened to the tax that they were then going to have to pay? Poof, it went away. I know it's a complicated thing to think about. I know it's a lot of things there, but this can work for a lot of people. I'll give you one other warning. I've had people try to use it on the front end. In other words, let's set up all of the people that are investing into my deals with solo 401ks. Man, that was a mess. And why? Because they are complicated. Solo 401ks are really good for the right individual that can take the time, do their own understanding of record keeping and the responsibilities and the reporting requirements. But not everyone has that talent. And if you're raising money from people, you're just dumping a lot of things onto their plate that they're probably not ready or willing to know or do or understand. That's why I mentioned that C corporation one earlier to that. But for a lot of other people's, it works really, really well. I highly recommend, if you want more money on the solo 401k, to take the time to talk to one of our solo 401k experts. You call up, ask for an IRA specialist, and then they'll set you an appointment with a 401k specialist to just try to walk you through or make sure that you understand it. And as always, education services requests are free, whether you're a client or not. If I said something today that triggered something in your head and you have a solo 401k with another company and you can't get a question answered or an IRA, call us. We are not going to be one bit offended that you're not with us and that you're with another company. I win everybody over eventually with our customer service, guarantee you. So please, I'd much rather see you get the education you need to make the right decisions, and than try to talk you into moving a business real quick. Guys, I hope this was helpful. I'd ask you to remember one last thing. Who you do business with matters. It mattered so much to me during COVID, the people that we've hired and my clients, and I want to thank all of you, right? Not every deal is just about money. Not every situation's about how much it costs. I think the real important thing to do if you're really wanting to build wealth is learn how to surround yourself with knowledgeable people who know what they're doing and who will be there when things are difficult. Oh, thank you. I am going to let Haley jump back on and tell you again about our specials because I'm not the best salesman. I'll just flip the slides here.
Awesome. Thanks, Nathan. So that was a great class, you guys. I hope you enjoyed the content that we shared today. Keep in mind that we do have our rewards for deposits promotion going on. Now through the end of the quarter, we are giving away up to $500 in account credits. So give us a call, send us an email. Manny, who is moderating, you guys have seen him in the chat throughout this entire class. He can be a great point of contact for you. Whereas my job is to kind of coordinate and to put on the events. Manny's job is to work with our new clients and existing clients one-on-one to figure out how your IRA works, how the funds moved around. Is it taxable? Is there reporting requirements? Manny is an expert there and can definitely help you guys with that. He has put his email there in the chat. And don't forget, we also have our grand opening events coming up in Tuesday, August 12th. No, sorry. I've been researching events online throughout this class. Tuesday, August 10th is our next grand reopening event in Austin. And Tuesday, August 17th is our next grand reopening event in our Dallas office. So we hope to see you all there. Reach out to us, give us a call, send us an email, and we'll be more than happy to help.
Thank you, Haley. Thank you again to all the clients and people that have been with us through these last 18 months have been really difficult. We really do appreciate all of you. And if you have any questions, just feel free to reach out.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks everyone. Y'all have a great day and we'll see you in our next upcoming classes and webinars.